What's the difference between an ordained deacon and an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church? We have two kind of orders of clergy, and it's deacon and elder within the United Methodist Church. Elders are itinerant in the sense that we can be moved by the bishop to different places. Ordained deacons find their own places of employment, and then the deacon is appointed there by the bishop. And so it's a little bit different. They're not itinerant in the sense that the bishop can't just pick them up and move them. So those are some of the differences practically. Elders are ordained to four things: word, sacrament, service, and order. And as we think about that, the elder is more likely to order the church in the sense and be a senior pastor somewhere. You don't normally see deacons serve as senior pastors because they are not ordained to order. Deacons are ordained to word and service and compassion and justice. And so their role is to kind of help the church meet the world and introduce the world to the church and back and forth, so that there's a relationship between the two. At the most recent General Conference, deacons were also given sacramental authority. And so now they can baptize and they can serve communion on their own without assisting an elder to do that. And so the lines between elder and deacon are probably more blurry than they were. Both are orders of clergy that assist one another in helping the church, and both are members of an annual conference. And so those are some of the differences. It's usually the deacon serves in an extension role outside the local church or as an associate pastor in charge of specific ministries. And so we have deacons on our staff here in charge of Christian education with adults, in charge of youth ministries, in charge of mission. And so those are specific ministries that they are overseeing. And so as an elder, which is what I am, I oversee the broad nature of the church and the order of all the church, and make sure that we're running smoothly. And so that's a part of what I do and what I'm ordained to. So when you talk about itinerancy, what does that mean? And why do United Methodist pastors move to different churches? Can they just move you? That question revolves around the idea of, are they going to move my pastor? And a lot of times in the history of our denomination, you've seen pastors move quite often. Years ago, they used to move United Methodist pastors about every 3 years, and they'd move whether they needed to or not, and that's just kind of how it worked. That's how the system worked. Today, there's actually consultation. The bishop can move a pastor. They're able to do that within their power, but they consult with the church and with the pastor to find the best move and the best fit for that congregation. A lot of times there's longer tenure of pastors today than there used to be, and it's not likely that I'm going to be moving anytime soon, but I do serve year by year, and that's a part of what I've vowed to do. But I'm not worried about that. I trust our bishop, and I trust the process, and I trust our church, and I think it's served me well throughout my career. I've served many places far longer than 3 years. My first appointment was 4.5 years. I was appointed then for 14 years, and then another for 7 years. I did serve 3 years as a district superintendent, but that was before I came here. And so I was happy to close that chapter on my ministry and become the senior pastor at Boston Avenue. What do the different robes and clothing mean that pastors wear on Sunday mornings? So in some traditions, you see pastors wearing robes. Sometimes they're black robes. Sometimes you see white robes. The robe is really just a symbol of education and its academic achievement. And so we see that in special ceremonies and graduations and things like that, where you see professors and things like that wearing robes and regalia. And this is a reminder that we value education and we place a high premium on education for our pastors. Within the United Methodist Church, we expect our pastors to have received a certain level of education before they are ordained. And so the typical of that is a Master's of Divinity. And so it's important that we see that, and that's reflected within the robe. When you see stoles, elders wear stoles that are kind of like yokes that go on either side, and deacons have one that's kind of across the middle like this. And so that just shows you the different order of what that clergy might be. If you see a pastor wearing a robe without a stole, either a deacon or elder stole, what that means is they're not yet ordained or fully ordained. They may have been commissioned or licensed to be a pastor, but they're still in the process of working towards that. And so the stole is actually the symbol of ordination. It means the bishop has laid the hands on this person and ordained them, and they are in apostolic succession at that point. What do United Methodist pastors learn in seminary? Ooh, this is a tough one. There's a whole wide gamut of things that we learn in seminary. As United Methodists, we have standards for our seminaries. We have 13 United Methodist seminaries that we send our people to and students, but we also have other seminaries that are recognized by the University Senate, such as Phillips Theological Seminary here in Tulsa is recognized. And so United Methodists can go there, even though it's a disciples seminary, and still be accredited as United Methodist pastors. So we have a wide variety of seminaries that we accredit and look at, but they all have some of the things in common in the sense that we're not fundamentalists in our understanding of our training. And so what that means is we look at our biblical studies through the context of when it was written, and we see how that applies to us today. We look at it from the sense that not all Scripture is equal, but rather that Jesus valued some Scripture higher than others, such as loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself, as the lens which we view other Scripture. And so it's important that we see those things. We learn those kind of things. We learn how to think theologically in seminary. We learn about pastoral care. We learn about church administration and finance. All these kind of things for whatever it takes to run a church, we learn in seminary.